guys, it's Emily, and today I'm here to bring you a tag video. This is the Choose the Year tag, and I was tagged by Doris from Aldi Books, and this tag was originally created by Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures, and I'll link both of their videos down there. So the year that I've chosen is 2009, which is the year that I graduated high school. And earlier in the summer, I had my 10-year high school reunion, but I didn't go because I had to work that day and I was tired and I didn't feel like paying $75 to go see people that I hadn't spoken to in 10 years. So I decided to skip it. And I actually just recently watched Rami and Michelle's high school reunion for the first time, and it was so weird because they're supposed to be like my age and they look so much older than me and people in my high school class do, and like also people came from like really far away to go to their high school reunion in that movie, and here I live like 20 miles from the place mine was at, and I didn't even go because it didn't seem worth it. So anyway, that was just a weird movie in general, and I don't really recommend it. Some people consider it a classic though, so you might want to try it if you're interested. But anyway, so I am doing the Choose the Year tag for the year 2009. And the second question after telling what year you chose is and before I say that, I should say the way this tag works is you go to the best books by year section of Goodreads and you select the year that you picked, and I'll link that down there too as well. And then you pick books to answer the question. So anywho, the second question is, which books published in the year 2009 have I read, or if I haven't read any, which have I heard of? And I have read a few of them. I listed them. The first one that I had read, which is actually the number one book mentioned, is Catching Fire, which is the second book in the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins. I read that one in college right around the time when the Hunger Games came out on DVD, because we had a movie night at the Wesley Foundation, which I was very involved in college, and I wanted to be able to watch the movie with my friends, so I read the first book in like one day or something, and then I read the next two over the course of like that semester. So I enjoyed them, but they weren't like amazing or anything. I remember I told one of my friends, I was like, that was good, but I'm not like anxious to rush out and get the second book. But I did eventually read all three in the trilogy. The next one I read was One Day by David Nicholls. One Day is actually one of my all-time favorite books. I love One Day, and I also really love David Nicholls' book Starter for 10. One Day, if you don't know, is the story of these two people, and every chapter is a different year in their life, and every chapter is set on July 15th. So they meet on July 15th, and then there's various other big events that happen in their life on July 15th. So it's a really great book, and it was like so well written, and I like really want to write a book that's at that kind of quality someday, because it's a really good book. I've also read Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet by Jamie Ford. That's a book that I read last year, and that's like a dual timeline narrative that takes place at this hotel, and the first part's during World War II, and then the second part is sort of like, I want to say like the 1980s, when they discovered some like artifacts and luggage in the bottom of this hotel, and it's about the imprisonment of the Japanese in concentration camps and everything that happened with that during World War II, and that's a really good book. And it also mentioned Columbine by Dave Cullen, which I read earlier this year. That was published in 2009. Brooklyn by Colm Tóibín, which I actually read when I was living in Nashville. I distinctly remember sitting on my porch, and in Nashville we had a really cool covered porch that I really loved, and I used to sit out there and read my books. So yeah, that was really fun, and Brooklyn's a really great book, although I hated the ending. Like, that was such an annoying ending for me. And then the last one I have read from that list is When You Reach Me by Rebecca Steed, and that I read on the recommendation of Felicia from Little Prairie Library, and that's a time travel story, and it's been a few years since I read that, but I really enjoyed that one. The next question is, are there any books published in 2009 that you think would be particularly interesting to read or that you want to read? And there were actually 2 books that were listed on there that are actually on my TBR. The first one being The Happiness Project by Gretchen and Rubin, which was a recommendation from my mom, and I bought a cheap copy of it at Goodwill one time a few years ago. And it's a self-help book about there's a different habit you could do for each month of the year, and it's supposed to be one of those yearly improving your life books. And then The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, which is the first book in the Flavia de Luce series, which is by Alan Bradley. I know several people have raved about that series, most notably I know Elizabeth from Whimsy Fabulous Books has mentioned it, and I think Mel has mentioned it as really liking that series. And it's about an 11-year-old girl who solves crimes. And then one that's not on my TBR that I am interested in reading is Soulless by Gail Carriger, which is the first book in her Parasol Protectorate series. That was one that I heard about on Vidka's channel, One Book, One Review, and it sounds really interesting, and I don't know much about it, except I think it's like a steampunk, mystery series or something, but anyway, I just remember Vidka talking about it and making it sound really interesting. Question number 4 is most obscure sounding book on the list. And for this one, I picked The Forest of Hands and Teeth by Carrie Ryan. There'll be a cover right here. This one just sounded weird. It sort of gave me a Handmaid's Tale vibe. The title was really weird, A Forest of Hands and Teeth. And then when I was reading the description, it's talking about there's this sisterhood, and then there's also this community of guardians in this person's world. I looked up the character's name and now I forgot it. And the guardians are trying to protect the world, and I guess there's an invasion, and I don't know, it just sounded really weird, and it sounded like a fantasy thing that I probably would never be interested in. And I also said it was part of a series, so I'm assuming this guardians ship or this sisterhood progresses, or maybe the character joins one of them, I don't know. But it just sounded kind of weird and something that I would never pick up in a million years. Question number 5 was most obscure book cover on the list, and for this one I picked The Wind-Up Girl by Paolo Bacialupi, and I just thought it was really weird that there was an elephant on the cover, but then there's this apocalyptic looking city, or maybe there's robots, I don't know, but it just looked like a really strange cover, and I wondered if the animals might be able to talk or something. I didn't really know. And also, it doesn't really seem to fit the cover, although I guess the wind-up girl could be a robot thing. I'm not really sure, but it just looked weird, so I figured I'd pick this one. Yeah, that was the Choose the Year tag. Thanks to Doris for tagging me, and I'll again link her video and mouse down there, and I'll also put the questions and the link to the Goodreads in case you're interested in doing this tag yourself. I hope everybody's having a great day and you're reading some great books, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!